Okay, we are now starting the webinar, waiting for everyone to join. While we wait for everyone to join, feel free to drop in the chat where you're calling in from. I'm calling out of Atlanta, Georgia. Tonya, where are you calling out of?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I just mentioned to you, Sharam, our air conditioner decided to stop working a few minutes ago. So I could, if you see me get a little damp, it's because it's gonna get a little warm here in Phoenix without AC.
Phoenix, it must be hot. How hot is it there right now? Because I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess in the hundreds. I can tell you exactly, but it's gonna take a second because I don't know why, but my phone always takes a minute to update that. I'm gonna guess, well, I was wrong. It's 96 right now, so not as hot as it could be.
That's pretty hot though. I mean, it's 79 here in Atlanta right now, which is pretty good. But like it's been hot lately, but I cannot imagine my AC going out when it's like almost 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Wow. So we have more people joining in. Feel free to drop in the chat or the Q&A, or the chat. What are you calling in from? Just love to see. Anyone else calling in from Atlanta?
It is. The thing about Atlanta, I think, is that you guys have Connecticut. Hey, Lynn. You guys have the humidity. I don't get that.
Los Angeles. Yeah, it does get humid here. It's crazy. It's like sometimes you're walking around outside, you can like feel the water in the air. It's weird.
Yeah. I was visiting for a Scaling New Heights, whatever year they did Scaling New Heights in Atlanta. And several of the ladies said, let's walk down to get dinner. And I was like, how do you guys breathe air? I don't do that in Arizona.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've always lived in humid areas. I lived in Memphis, which was humid. I lived in Knoxville, which was humid. I lived in Nashville, was humid. I don't know what it is. It's just the South in general, I think. Okay,
Lots of Canadians in the house. Nice.
Oh yeah. St. Louis. We were just there for Scaling New Heights recently. Massachusetts, Colorado. Wow, North Carolina.
Grand Junction. Cool.
Okay, so we're about 3 minutes in, so we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining this month's customer webinar. Today we have Tonya Schultze from the Profit Constructors, and she's going to be talking about how she uses financial sense in her firm to consistently hit deadlines. You know, as you guys grow, you get more clients, you have more team members, there's just a lot more going on, and it's hard to juggle it all. And she's going to talk about some of the challenges she faced and why financials was a good fit and how she actually implemented it in her firm. So give you guys some insights into how you could potentially do the same. Tonya, looking forward to the presentation. I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Sharam. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And can you guys see that? Can you see that, Sharam?
Yep.
Slideshow? Awesome. Great. So yeah, we're going to talk today about how we use financial sense to consistently hit project deadlines. So we'll talk a little bit about like what kinds of projects we do at the Profit Constructors and how that plays out for us. And then we'll talk about kind of like how we're meeting those deadlines when we are. So why does my slideshow not want to go? There it goes. So that's me. I'm Tonya Schulte. I am the founder of the Profit Constructors. We're a full service advisory team that does management accounting, bookkeeping, controller level type services for construction companies only. I'm the host of the Construction Junction podcast. So look that up wherever you get your podcasts and you can hear some of the cool stuff we're doing over there. And then I'm also the host of the Construction Junction Roundtable. So if you are a accountant or bookkeeper who's interested in finding out more about getting into that space, or if you already do a lot in that space, that would be another great thing for you to check out. We meet about twice a month and chat about all things construction. So sometimes we're doing trainings, sometimes we have apps in the room that are telling us about their app that's specific to construction. So that's a really good, fun place to be if you're into that. I call myself a co-firming geek. We're going to talk about that a little bit later today. What is co-firming and how financial sense plays a big part in what we do with that. And of course, I'm the construction accounting guru. I love doing construction accounting. I know that makes me weird. So like I said a little bit ago, we do co-firming. So we are a team. We have 6 internal employees. Every one of those employees are remote. So I'm right now in the office that's attached to the back of my house, and every other one of our internal team members works remotely. And we also work side by side with multiple co-firming firms. So we have a firm that we work with all the time that's in Colorado, another one that's in Chicago, another one that we're bringing on board that's in Texas, and I think we're soon going to bring one on board from Rhode Island. So all of those teams across the country are also all remote. So I think that is very important to kind of note that for us, Financial Sense has been a crucial piece of our growth and our communication across internal and external partners. And that we're 100% remote. And like I said, this is kind of the services that we offer. And we started using Financial Sense fairly early on, all the way back in 2020. And we've been with it ever since. So today we're going to talk about why we needed Financial Sense, what led us to choosing Financial Sense, and then how we use Financial Sense. I'm going to kind of show you some slides and talk through that. And then we'll dive into a live demo too, and kind of talk through the process actually in app. So here's some of the problems that our team was facing before we started using Financial Sense. I'm going to say one of the biggest ones for us is the top one there, which is recurring work. We had tried some solutions, and we'll get into what we had tried too in just a minute, but we had tried a whole bunch of different solutions. And what we were finding was most were either calendar based and could handle like a recurrence that would show up on a calendar simply, or others were like list based or project management based, but they didn't show us the recurring work in a format that was understandable to the team, so that the team could always know on this day at this time, this deadline is going to come up. And that was super important to us to, and again, a lot of what we're talking about today is like hitting those deadlines. So if we were using a tool that didn't tell us that that was coming up, that was extremely difficult to try to track. So I'd say number one, recurring work was a big problem. Also the complexity of our projects. Because we work in that construction space, most of, and we are a QuickBooks Online only firm. So most of our clients, there's some complexity that comes along because most of them can't be served in QuickBooks Online alone. Most of them do have to have an external app that we need to either help them clean up in addition to the cleanup that we're doing in QBO, or we need to help them implement that software and really get it up to speed and help them learn how to use that software. And again, that just comes with a high level of complexity. There's obviously going to be a lot of moving parts when you're managing a project like that, because you're also managing, for all intents and purposes, a lot of change management for your clients at that point. Maybe they're new to that other app. Maybe they have been using the app in a way that's not correct. So there's just a lot of moving parts and complexity that comes on board when you're doing those types of projects. Again, that allocation across the teams. And as we started to bring on our co-firming partners, that became something that we had to take into account, like who is going to be doing the work and how do we know that everything on the list has been assigned to someone and that that task is going to be done. Deadlines, a huge one that we're going to talk about all throughout today as we look at how we do this. Communication for us was huge. Again, as we have everyone being remote, I can't just stick my head around the cubicle and say, hey, Sally, did you get that document from so-and-so? Were you able to complete that task? So we had to know that we could communicate in a central location, and that because of the way that we were doing that, everyone on the team that needed to have access to that communication could. And again, for some of the solutions that we tried for that, there was a lot of barriers to that actually being able to work. Remote work, I've talked about extensively already. And then of course, quality control. Quality control was a big one for us and continues to grow in the size of what we need to do around that. In fact, this year we brought on a quality control manager. And before we did that, one of the things that we recognized was, especially with our co-firm partners, if we do ask the co-firm partners to come on board and do a portion of the work for us, there has to be some central location for us to assess if the work that they're doing is being done, and it's being done to the standard that our team would expect that it's being done. And so the only way to do that is to have that central location where everybody's doing the same thing and all of the projects are being tracked in the same place. Some of the solutions that we tried don't laugh. Yes, in the early days, we were just using Google To-Dos because of the recurring aspect of this that I mentioned that was so important to us. Google Calendar actually helped keep us all on task. So we could put a Google Calendar recurring thing on Google to remind us, hey, you have to go file sales tax for a particular client that month. But Google Calendar wasn't a great place to keep the project with the task list of all the steps to do the thing. So very early on, when our firm first started, it was just myself for a little while, and then shortly thereafter, I brought on another person that worked with me for quite some time, and she and I both were like, "It's fine. We know how to file sales tax, so we'll put the thing on the calendar. We'll put just enough information for the two of us, and we'll just use the to-dos for those like one-off things we need to do." And it worked for maybe about a year, right? So we made it work, but it was horrible, right? There was no way we were ever going to bring on anyone else or transfer all of that knowledge in our head about how to file sales tax and be able to hire someone, onboard them and say, here is how you do sales tax for this particular client. So that wasn't going to be a long-term solution. And we knew that. And the whole time that we were doing that, we were actively searching for a better way to do it. The big roadblock that we ran into when we started to assess, and we used for a very short time, programs like Asana, was that Asana and other programs like it don't allow for the recurring work. Maybe they do now, but back in the day when we were looking at this, it was all project based. So those were one-off projects. And so I could say, okay, Sally, you need to do that sales tax, and I could put it on her list to do. And then she would have to remember every single time that when she got to the end of that list, she had to re-up that and put it back on the, go ahead and put it back on the calendar again. So that was a difficult thing to have to deal with, because not only did she have to remember to do it, which, okay, fine, you can put a task on the task list and she can check that box and she can go put it on for the next time. But as we grew and we recognized that I needed to know when Sally was reaching capacity, I didn't have any way to look forward and see, oh, Sally does sales tax every single 10th of the month for this client and 12th of the month for that client. And I didn't have any way to capacity plan for Sally to know if she was actually going to have time on her calendar looking ahead to bring in another client. And honestly, before we started figuring out parts and pieces of this, that was really a huge pain point for us, because we would bring on a new client and assign it to folks, and we weren't doing a great job of holding folks accountable. And so part of the steps of holding someone accountable that we didn't know how to do well was say to them, do you have enough time to do this thing? And so we weren't giving them the right resources because we didn't have enough forward-looking information in the software we're using. Then we tried to use Smartsheet. That was a great place for us to sort of keep like a task list. We could put deadlines in there. But again, it just didn't have all of the aspects of capacity planning that we needed. And we were at that point sort of siloing everything we were trying to do. So we're trying to do capacity planning in one place, and then Smartsheet for all the task management and making sure that everything got checked off. And everything in those silos just became overwhelming to manage. And so obviously all of those solutions we had to just trash and say, what are we going to do? So we looked around and found, go ahead, Shram. I see you popped in. What did you want to say about that?
No, I was just going to add to that. So like we go back to the last slide, we've seen very similar situations with a lot of firms that we've worked with, right? Like I use the Google to-do list personally, but but a lot of smaller firms, it works really well. So there's like spreadsheets and Smartsheets and Asana at first, but like when you start to grow, like there's all these complexities. You have to delegate work. You have to have that visibility to what the other person is doing. You have to have it like recur. Like these systems are great, but as you grow, like you need a more industry tailored solution that can fit your process better, right? Instead of trying to make your process try to fit with workarounds that kind of creates gaps in the system. And it's cool to hear your experience with that and like what was actually happening, because very similar stories we see across the board.
Yeah, and like I said, we were siloing things then, right? So like one part of our management team would say, well, yes, Sally has the capacity to do that, but then the other part of the management team had to check back and see if she was checking the things off the list because they weren't in the same location, and it was hard for that the management team to get all together to say, okay, does Sally have the capacity? Does she have all the tools she needs to do it? Like nothing was in the same place.
Yeah. And that's a big piece too, right? Like as you grow, you want to have as much information in one place because it helps it keeps you more organized, but it helps your team find the information they need. Because if you're using like 4 different apps throughout your process, like your team's going to want to like, okay, do I have access to this? Or how do I where is that information? Is it in this one? Or is it in that one? And like just consolidating it in one like solution like that can really drive a lot of efficiency and just empower your team from what we've seen.
Yeah, and I will say too, one quick thing while we're talking about this point, and I didn't put it on this slide, but I should have. One of the tools that we began to use fairly early on, and we honestly still use it in a certain way, is Slack. But at some point in all of this like weirdness where we were siloing everything, clients started sending us a ton of documents in Slack. We're like, no, stop, right? So, but they were like, well, we don't know how else to get a hold of you, and you've asked for these documents, and this Dropbox thing you're trying to do is confusing. So here, just take this thing, because they knew that they could send it in Slack. So yeah, there were so many problems with not having all of that information in one centralized location.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit. It benefits your team and your clients, like you pointed out. That's great.
Yeah. All right. So really, I think that the reason why we ended up choosing Financial Sense, like I said, number one was that recurring project. So as soon as I saw that there was the recurring projects, that we could look at that both from a calendar viewpoint and that we could always see ahead, like, okay, that project's going to be on this person's calendar going ahead, going forward for however long. The capacity tracking was really important to us. Again, like I've mentioned several times, that remote collaboration. So now then, if we have more than one team member working on the same project, which we often do with those complex projects that we do, all of the communication about that project lands in notes on that particular project. And so you can, at Tonya, I see that you reached out to the client for these 3 documents. I see that we still don't have them. Do you want me to go ahead and bump them and push that? So everyone kind of has a hand in making sure that that client project is moving forward, and they know where everyone else is at any given point on that project, what's holding up the thing. And then, tagging in Financial Sense is huge for that too. Like, are we waiting on something for the client? Are we waiting on something maybe from a third party, a CPA firm, something like that? So we can tag all those kinds of things. And the management at a glance gets to see this project is on hold. This project, the client's not responding. What do we need to do to make sure that the client's having a really great experience? Because if they're not getting this information, let's find out what's happening that's slowing down that client interaction, and why aren't they having a great experience with our team. So we can step in early and make sure that the client experience stays at the high level of quality. In fact, somebody said something the other day about, why do we keep doing client satisfaction surveys? This was on our podcast, which I think is going to drop today, as a great business coach. He said, why do we keep doing client satisfaction surveys? In what other area of life are we happy with just the client being satisfied? No, we want our clients to be enthusiastic. So having all of that remote collaboration piece in Financial Sense is something that helps management on our team keep the clients enthusiastic. Like, this project's rolling along. I can see what it's doing. I understand. And then, like I said, management can reach out at any point that it seems to hit a roadblock and make sure that that roadblock gets dealt with immediately. Quality maintenance, we've already talked about. Again, huge for us that we're able to upload standardized templates and know exactly how a month-end close should look for each one of our clients. And if we're not hitting that mark, then our quality assurance manager can see why. She can see what each one of the bookkeepers across our internal and external co-firm team, what roadblocks they may be hitting. And so the cool part about that from a quality standpoint is, if 3 of 6 bookkeepers always seem to hit the same roadblock, well, then what can we do as a team to adjust that internally and continue to deliver quality product back to the client and a high level of customer enthusiasm around our client experience? And then deadline management, which is huge. Again, because we're doing these complex projects, we typically try to give our clients, and I have a slide about this, we're going to kind of show how we try to manage that. But we want to make sure that our clients know, for those one-off large cleanup and implementation projects, here's a approximate timeline of how your project's going to go. And so being able to mark those projects with deadlines and in a very clear fashion, like, okay, we would like to have this project done by this date, but you know what, we'll tell the client a certain date, and then we have an internal due date that we can track to say we would like to be ahead of the date that we're able to tell the client, so that we can really shine in their eyes and show them how we got that project done even ahead of the time that we gave them in that initial estimate that they were super happy about then too. So this is everything that we have in Financial Sense, and we have a standardized template, and there's more templates than just 5, but we have a standardized template for a lot of different things in our client lifecycle, and they go all the way. Everything is managed in Financial Sense, from the initial 15-minute consultation that myself or someone else on the team is going to do to make sure that that's a potential client that's a good fit for the services that the Profit Constructors offers, to the discovery piece where we're really analyzing and understanding what the work is that needs to be done. The reason that implementation is highlighted in red is we're going to talk a lot about that and deadlines and managing all of that. And then we have multiple different templates for that implementation. So whether that's a QuickBooks Desktop to QBO conversion, we have a couple of different templates for how that might have to happen. We have templates for various apps that we need to implement. We have templates for QuickBooks Online Cleanup. And then our recurring work, we templatize that. So we have weekly templates that are recurring. We have monthly templates that are recurring, whether that's for just weekly work, bookkeeping work we're going to do, month-end closes, maybe month-end sales tax reporting that needs to happen. So every bit of this whole client lifecycle is templatized, including client offboarding, that exit. So if we do find that the client's not a good fit, or they've outgrown us, just the different, as you all know, as firm owners, that's going to happen sometimes where the client needs to exit, and we need to know that we're doing that right, that we're doing it with integrity and also with a lot of quality. Just as much as we want to onboard them with quality, we want to make sure that we are sending them off and that they're in a better place than where we found them. So we have that as a template too, so that we know when we have let them go that they're going to be able to do really well, and we've done that to the best of our ability. So this is digging a little bit deeper. Like I said, we kind of highlighted implementation because we do have such complex projects in that area, and meeting deadlines there is very important. We set up some internal deadlines all along the way, and so sometimes we will even break these down into multiple projects in Financial Sense. That's one sort of side benefit that we hadn't thought about that's becoming really kind of a cool thing for clients is like, here you go, here's your whole project, but here's how it's broken out for you, and here's how you'll be able to mark these particular that we've hit that deadline, we've hit that timeline milestone, because you'll be able to see that this project, because when we go into meetings and we're doing implementations, we're actually showing them, here's our whole checklist, here's what we're going to do for you in Financial Sense, and when we hit this mark, that project's going to be closed, and you'll know that that milestone has been hit. And we were just in a client meeting earlier this morning showing a client that, and we were able to show them, like, here's where this particular project is marked in progress, and here's where this is waiting on info from client. And so these are the roadblocks right now that are holding up your project. And we're super excited to have this conversation with you so we can just wipe those roadblocks out of the way and we can all move forward with this project. And they love seeing that. Like we're showing them the internal workings of Financial Sense sometimes because they like to see what we're seeing, and they like to see, oh, there is progress happening. I do see that, you were able to check off those 4 subtasks, and you're waiting for me to get a statement before you could finish that 5th reconciliation. So that's how we're managing some larger cleanup projects, because a lot of times, we are waiting on information from them. And again, from a client experience standpoint, we don't like to just throw the ball into their court and then say like, well, you didn't send it to us for 3 months. So we're going to have regular meetings with them and say, here's the thing we're waiting on. If you guys can just get us that right now, we'll be able to push forward. And they love that. So when we're setting up our cleanup and implementation projects, and like I said, we're often doing, we're only working QuickBooks Online, but we will convert people from desktop. So the initial template that we have is a whole discovery template. We do a lot of work. We will do discovery both in their QuickBooks Online software, and we also have some discovery templates for some of the softwares that our team works with a lot, for instance, Notify, where we actually have very detailed level of data that we go through and discover all along the way to understand what is the scope of this cleanup project need to be. And so we use all of that discovery data. I just realized, you guys, this is funny. You guys can laugh at me. I left some of the wording on this slide from when I set this up. We use some of that discovery data to create the financial sense project that I just mentioned that we end up sharing all along the way with the client. So they see when we get into the final discovery meeting with them, here's everything we found in your QuickBooks, in your Notify system, and whatever other systems you have attached that we're going to have to clean up detail by detail. Here's what we're going to do. And look, we're going to separate it out into these 4 projects for you. So you'll be able to track the process, the process and the progress of that project all the way through. And you'll be able to know what's happening as we go. So then we're using that financial sense project to help us inform that potential timeline. So if we feel like we need to break it up into 2 projects, and that, helps us understand the project timeline, 4 projects, whatever that needs to look like, and we understand the time that each of those tasks need to take, then we're able to give the client really clear data around, look, because we were able to set up these tasks and we have these clear expectations of how long those tasks will take, as long as we can get the right information from you guys, that's how we're coming up with this expectation of this timeline. And again, it's super helpful to them because especially in our industry, they're used to seeing Gantt charts and they totally understand how a project goes from start to finish. So they understand milestones and they understand how to manage a project like that. Michael's asking, hey, Michael, how do you send the client a status of the project or steps are completed? So we've done that a couple of different ways. Like I said, a lot of times we like to show them in planned regular client meetings and just show them the back end of Financial Sense. But we have also actually downloaded the Financial Sense task list and just added some notes of our own and sent that off to the client too if that client meeting doesn't get to happen. So we can do it a couple different ways.
I was going to add something here, is I guess a little teaser. So there is something we are working on adding the Financial Sense that will make this a lot easier. So basically the thought process is being able to send an automated email to a client as certain tasks are completed, and the email will be completely customizable, right? So you could say, you could pick any task or all the tasks, right, in a project and say, when this is completed, send the client this customized email. So automate that, like, hey, we just finished XYZ step, we're 40% through the process. It would go automatically, you don't have to do anything, right? And it happened in the background, and that's ties into kind of what you're talking about. So it's cool to see, like, I think we're on the right track with that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Shram. I love that. That's gonna be cool. I will say this, I love the automated aspect of that, and you're definitely on the right track. But I also love those little personal touches too, right? So all along the way, that's why we do planned regular client meetings for these larger complex projects, because they like those automated emails too, and they will be excited about that. But they also like to just see us face to face and be like, okay, do you guys know what's going on in our QuickBooks yet? Like, can you tell us what the P&L should look like? They're because it's their money and they're nervous about it, right?
Yeah.
So they like that personal face-to-face touch too. So that's one reason why a lot of times we're delivering it. And we'll just open up Financial Sense. I always make sure when I'm sharing with a client in any software that I only am sharing their stuff, right? So that's one reason I like in the drop downs that we can select only look at this client. So in those client meetings, we'll say, we're going to talk to this client and we'll just show them, like, look, see, here's the 4 projects we have open for you guys. This is where things are in progress on this one. We had these 3 questions for you on that one. And they can just move forward knowing, hey, we were able to answer questions. These guys are really actually working on it. They're not just in the background doing stuff. We don't even know what they're doing, right? So Shar is asking a question about what that's going to look like, Sharam, automatic emails.
Okay, so her question is along the same lines, does it send automatic emails for things that are still needed from the client, or automatic emails to the client with their checklist? Yes, so there would be 2 separate systems, right? So you have the client tasks or request where it automatically follows up with the client and chases them down for the information. This would be something different because that's set on the project level, right? But these would be set on the task level. So like kind of like if you guys have used the status or tag automators in our system, like when you complete this task, it'll change the project to in review, or it will change it to like, waiting on client information. Same thing, except now it'll also send an email to the client that is customized to however you customize it. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it does.
Yeah, well, and I will also say we already do use those automatic emails. So when you're requesting, so when you set up client tasks and request information from the client, Shar, you can say, only send this once. Or you can also say, hey, just send this every day until they get it to me, send it every 2 days. And like you can determine how many touches they'll get of those automatic emails until they've gotten that information to you. Good stuff. So I think we've kind of covered how we do this, right? Like we put all this in there, we're assigning the work to whichever partner is going to do that, whether that's internal staff for us, a co-firming partner, because we often assign that out. And then we're keeping the client informed all along the way as we get into those things. So because I think you guys are going to get a copy of the slides, I included a couple of examples of what that might look like for us. So in this case, it's actually quite a large cleanup project that we are doing. So in this particular case, we took everything again that was on the discovery, and we ended up putting this into one project. This is in one project. Do all kinds of things. But this particular project is an ongoing project that we're working on, and I just moved it over into this demo account so we can look at it in a little bit. But what we're doing in here is every single thing that we said we would do on the discovery now becomes a task that someone is assigned to, and then may even have subtasks, right? So like in this case, if we need to match the bank feed transactions, there may be 3 different bank feed accounts linked in the bank feed, or in this case, 6. So it looks like if I quickly come in and look at this, I can tell that this task is in progress and that 3 of the bank feeds have been gone through, 3 still need to be done. So I can, as a manager, quickly understand where is my team in the process of doing this, which is so helpful because like we try to have a great client experience and we try to have those high touch points, but the client, again, they're going to be very nervous as they go through this cleanup process often. So they want to know more. And so it's nice to be able to say, when they call, hey, Tonya, where are you at with my project? Well, let me take a look. Okay, well, I can see that it's in progress. And of the 3 bank, that for this particular task, of the 3 bank feeds that need to be happened, or the bookkeeper had questions on 3 of them, and she's sent them over to you on X date. If you could get those to us, that's going to move this project along. So it's just, I can quickly at a glance tell where everyone is. Or maybe it's not that the client is calling. Maybe I need to just assess if this project is moving forward from a management standpoint and where are we in the timeline. And so I can just come in and then maybe reach out to the bookkeeper and say, hey, I see that you were able to match those 3. Were you able to also get questions that you had about the other 3 over to the client? What's maybe holding that up? Where are we at in that process? So again, at a high glance, I can just tell what's going on with each task in this list. And if I need to, and we can see this when we get into the demo, I can even click in and see, okay, which 3 of those aren't done, right? So we can get into a little bit more deeper detail when we get a little bit more into the program. And this is the same thing. So when we're going to do a implementation, we can set it up in exactly the same way. So we can set up all of the tasks that need to happen. We can assign who needs to do that. And all of the communication can happen in here regarding what has been done, questions that someone on the team has for someone else. You can ask the client questions to make sure that that progress can keep moving forward. All right. So I think we're going to live demo now. I'm going to switch over into Financial Sense. So one of the places that I wanted to start, and this is in the Financial Sense demo account. So there might be some things in here that our team wouldn't necessarily do because we don't do taxes, but this is the starting point for everything. We have to know what are the types of things that we can offer to clients. What are the services that we have? So when I look at this, I think of this as like, this is our menu. So if you were to walk into Starbucks and say, hey, what does Starbucks serve? If you're walking to the Profit Constructors door, what types of products does the Profit Constructors provide? Well, this right here, all of our templatized services should be our menu of services. It should be what informs us about the types of services that we can do and that we would do. So in our case, again, we're looking in the demo account here, but in our case, you would see those, like I mentioned earlier, QuickBooks desktop conversion projects, templates. So that every time we do a QuickBooks desktop conversion, because we don't do them often, and we might miss or forget something. So we have a fairly large template in there that reminds us to check if there are billable items, that reminds us to clean up the vendor list. Like all of the little parts and pieces are going to be in our QuickBooks desktop conversion template. And so we know we can sell that service. We know how to do it, and we know what all the components and aspects are of that because it's here on our menu. So I like to think of this as like your client menu. If you have a regular planned service that you want to offer, it should be here in your menu. Let's take a look at what one of these looks like. So let's go into the monthly bookkeeping. So then once you get into this template, it's going to be like your base flat template. Okay, so if it's Burger King instead of Starbucks, well, Starbucks is a good one too, but if it's Burger King, they're going to do it your way. And so you may go ahead and create this for a particular client. But in our case, because we work in construction, some of our clients need WIP reporting and some do not. And so we might, when we're creating this for a client, we might go ahead and say, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I don't want to edit this. I want to start a new one. So I'm going to create the project off of this. So I might say that for one of our clients, I'm going to just go ahead and create it. And I might say, but I know that for this client, every single time we do it, we're going to need to do WIP reporting for them, if I could type. So even though we have our base menu, we also do know that we can go ahead and add, if they want to add pickles or they want to add onions, we can go ahead and do that too. So we have the menu, and then we have some ingredients that we can add along the way that will help. So I hope that that menu illustration helps to think about what we can do with templates. And then once we've used the templates and we've set up some work for the client, for our team, now then each team member can come in and say, okay, what do I need to do on that particular day? So when we are thinking about in terms of like what's happening on some of those longer term projects, it's really helpful for each person that's assigned to that longer term project to be able to just come in and see their own work and say, okay, I know that we have certain project deadlines for this implementation. And so, the things that are on my list for today, I've got to get working on some of these monthly bookkeeping tasks. And I also have this implementation that I'm working through and working on. So that's one key and crucial way that each of our employees is able to see just their work and make sure that they're staying on task and making sure that they're very much paying attention to these due dates. So one of the things that I said earlier, I'll go ahead and point out in this particular setup for this implementation, is that we would really like, from a client experience, customer experience standpoint, we would like to under promise and over deliver. I'm going to be honest, it's confessional time. We don't always do that. Sometimes we go past deadline. Sometimes, we don't hit it. But one thing that Financial Sense has that I want our team to start using more and more, because we've realized the power of it, is this internal due date. So that internal due date is what's going to show up as the due date that my team member can see. This is my drop dead deadline of when I have to have this done. But I may actually have set for the client a due date of the 30th. So that gives me time to make sure that the work is completed, the quality has been reviewed, and maybe, hopefully, it also gives us time to get it to them early, right? That's really the long-term goal, is that we will have internal due dates that are when even all the quality work has been done. And by the time that we told the client, we're actually able to hand this over to them a couple of weeks early. And they're able to, again, have that high level of client enthusiasm. So let's go back and look and see. So this is showing November 30th. So when we come in here, we can see that our internal due date is November 15th. So that helps keep the whole team on track too, right? Like, okay, I know we told the client November 30th, but guys, I really want you paying attention to this internal due date, because we want to, definitely hit those dates and hit them ahead of time. So that's one thing, is for all the assignees to be able to see their own work. Another way that I, as manager, like to look at this, and again, especially when I know we're working on a project for a client that has a bunch of, or a lot of, cleanup work going on, is I like to see it by client. So in this case, this particular client, and we do this, we will often onboard a client and start their monthly bookkeeping right away while we're trying. So I'll tease our clients all the time, like, we might be changing the tire on this bus as it's driving down the road. So we might be working on current bookkeeping and also, doing some implementation and cleanup at the same time. So I can quickly see for this new client that we just onboarded, okay, where is the bookkeeper that's assigned to do the bookkeeping? How is are we gonna be able to keep this up to date and give some information to the client about what's current? How are we coming on implementing that new app? And where are we at on the client and why? So for instance, on the cleanup, this tag tells me that we're waiting on the client and we're waiting on information from a third party. So that could be for us, a CPA firm. A lot of times when we're doing cleanup, we're going to have to go back and reach back out to a prior tax preparer to get information from them. In our case, again, a lot of complex projects, we might have to reach out to a bonding agent to find out some information. So all of that might play into why this project is slowed down. And this is super important for me to know at a glance what's going on. And I showed this earlier on the slides and I said we could even dig deeper. So now I can see that it's actually not 3 accounts that are missing, it's that that bookkeeper has been able to get through 3 months, right? So I'm able to ask questions like, okay, what's holding up April? Why aren't you able to go ahead and move on? Is it a timing issue? Have you had this on your calendar and you're working on it and we know that you're on task? Or is it that that's the information that you're waiting on from the client? But I can see that it's in progress. And same with this, when I go into the reconcile fixed assets, I can see that we had some questions for the CPA. And so now I know, oh, okay, that is part of what's holding this up. We wanted to find out, and that's why this is waiting on info from a third party. In order to reconcile those fixed assets against depreciation and understand that that's all correct in the system, we're waiting on the CPA to send us back the list that they had from the client the prior year or whatever may be going on. So all of that is very important to us being able to assess whether or not the work is getting done on time and what might be holding up that work from being able to be done on time. There is a question, Sharam, so you might want to pop back in, about how big a firm should be to use Financial Sense. I'm going to answer it. You might want to answer it differently, but I think you could be the size of 1 and Financial Sense would be super beneficial to you. And the main reason why, and I started at the beginning, and I don't know if you were here to hear that, recurring work. There's no other great software out there for that recurring work. So I think a size of 1 would be beneficial. And especially if you want to have that client interaction, that's another piece of that. Like even a solopreneur can have the client interaction going back and forth seamlessly here in Financial Sense. What's your take on it, Sharon?
Yeah, I would agree with you, right? I mean, I think you start to see more value as you grow and have more team members, because one of the biggest things we do is that workflow dashboard, right? So you can get visibility and see who's working on what. Did this work get done on time? You know, we joke all the time because they keep you up at night, right?
Yes.
So you got to share it on it. But that's one of the biggest value drivers, and that typically sets in when you have a team, right? Because that's when you're delegating the work and you're not touching everything. However, there's a lot, like you still get value from the dashboard as a solo because it can be hard to keep it all in your head, right? Like it kind of like some of you used to say, like it holds their brain, right? Like that lets them get it out of their head so they can relax and not have to think like, oh, I need to do this next. It kind of gives you like a calmness and ease, but also like there's automation features, right? Like automating the client data collection and following up with clients. That's a huge for a solo firm because that's going to save you a lot of time so you can focus on other things. Or the documentation, right? You want to document your processes on a client by client level. You can. So when you're doing it every month, you don't have to remember like, what was that one step for this client? Or if you improve the processes over time, like they get smarter and you don't have to remember. And then ultimately, like you're setting yourself up for scale, right? One of the biggest things we see with firms is they say, I wish I did this sooner, right? Because if you try to implement something like this, when it becomes a problem, like the visibility and everything, it's a little too late. It's like you have to retrain everyone on the new system, change the way they're doing things. You have to make time to implement it, right? But if you do it in the beginning, it becomes a part of your firm's DNA. And when you hire new people, that's just what they're used to. And it's easier to start earlier than to try to implement it later too. So there's a lot of different reasons for it. But it works with all sizes, right? There's a lot of value for solos, but I think as you grow, you start to see some bigger pieces of value kick in. That I talked about.
Yeah. And then the next question is like, is there a max limit that Financial Sense can handle well?
There isn't. So we have, a lot of smaller customers. We have a lot of middle-sized firms. We have a lot of bigger firms. We have firms with 50 users. We have firms with over 100 users on our platform, right? So it's built to scale with your firm. And like I mentioned, like I think you start to see more value the bigger you are, because those are some of the biggest challenges. Those problems get bigger as you grow, right? The organization documents, the collaboration is happening in Slack, email, text message. Documents are in some folder somewhere, or in the cloud in some file somewhere, or like, did Jonathan do this? Did Susie get that done? You lose more visibility across departments, across teams, across team members. So the value just gets better. So yeah, it scales really well with bigger firms. And there's some of our stickiest customers.
Yeah, I love that. Angela said in the chat that she's a solopreneur. She's using Financial Sense and setting everything up to make her life easier now. And absolutely, so to Sharam's point, like, I wish I would have had Financial Sense as a solopreneur, because remember, like I said, it was myself and one other person for a long time, and she and I had worked together. I'd been her boss in a couple of other organizations before. So we brought a lot of knowledge into the firm, and we kept it all in our heads for like the first 2 to 3 years. And as soon as we had to impart that knowledge to someone else, it became clear very fast that we weren't able to impart that knowledge in a way that made a lot of sense. And so having something like Financial Sense from the beginning would have made that flow for us so much better.
So I just want to say, I accidentally released the poll. I was waiting to see that later. I think I hit a button and it released a poll. You don't have to answer it now. You can wait till the end. That was my mistake. But if you are interested in learning more about Financial Sense and potentially using it in your firm, you can indicate it in the poll. And our team will reach out with more information, but you can also go to the website. We'll talk about that later. I'll leave the poll open. That was my mistake. Sorry about that, but you can go ahead, Tonya.
Oh, it's all good. I think the only other thing I was going to show here in the actual software is, again, we've been talking over and over and over, and I think it's the whole thing about this is, how do we use this to consistently meet deadlines? If we're searching for things by due date, like, this is an invaluable tool for your management to be able to see, like, okay, what's everything that's due within the coming week, right? So like, we're able to kind of see, like, from here to here, like, what is the team working on? Of course, this is the demo account, so harder to really filter everything about that. But on our firm, like, we are able to chunk that, put it into chunks, right? Because if you looked at our firm's Financial Sense board, it could be overwhelming. And so from a managerial standpoint, I think it's super helpful to just be able to say, okay, I'm going to do some quality assurance for this week. What do I need to focus on for this week? And that's another way to help hit consistent deadlines. Because if you as a team are consistently overwhelmed looking at this giant list of things that everybody on the team has to get done, everybody on the team is going to get overwhelmed and frustrated. But if you're able to chunk it up into either the work that you need to do, the work that is specifically for a particular client, or from a managerial standpoint, often that due date, so you can take a look and see what everybody's doing across the board. Having the ability to filter and look at just the work that you need to look at any particular time, those are some of the biggest ways that our team is able to use Financial Sense to keep on deadline. It almost sounds counterintuitive, right? Like, so if the deadline's November 30th, I'm not going to look at it right now. Well, I might look at it because it's going to come up in some other things, but for this week, I need to know what I'm needing to hit. And so I can consistently look at it in a number of different ways to understand what I need to work on that particular week. Yeah, so Sharam, that was everything that I wanted to tell folks about how we use Financial Sense to meet deadlines.
Perfect. Thanks for that. That was a great walkthrough.
Yeah, thank you. One really quick thing, I will just say, if there is anybody that's on the call here, I don't know if this is easy to see when it's not in slideshow mode, but if there's anybody on the call that's actually interested in serving in the construction vertical, our team works with a lot of other accounting firms to help them get used to working in Notify and to help them learn how to onboard and implement Notify clients. So we're actually giving away something free. So I think when they get these slides, that'll be a clickable link that they can go and get that free giveaway from us to help them get into that construction vertical.
Perfect.
Please.
Okay, and I already released the poll, but if you're interested in learning more about Financial Sense, it's still active. You can let us know and we'll reach out to you. But also, if you don't want to talk to our team, you just want to go to the site, learn more, you can do that at financialsense.com, and you can start a trial, test drive the software for yourself. If it looks interesting, you can talk to sales, or we have a lot of users. It's an easy to use platform. That's our biggest thing. So they just go in, it's easy to figure out, they get set up and they sign up. But we're here to talk to you as well. So if you're interested in testing, just learning more, you can go to our website, start a trial, but you can also indicate in the poll so we can reach out to you to, walk you through a demo or answer any questions that you guys may have. And we'll also, like Tonya mentioned, we are going to follow up with an email with a recording of this, with the slide deck, so you'll have access to these links and the materials if you want to review it. Other than that, does anyone have any questions? Drop them in the chat. We've already answered, I think, some of them, but drop in the chat or the Q&A before we end the webinar. Let's see.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
Yeah, no, this is great. It's a really great topic, and it's really always exciting to see how our users are actually using the platform in real time. Looks like we have another question from Char. So we have offices in different locations. Can you view by location too? Yes, you can. So inside Financial Sense, you can filter down the work, right? So like at a holistic level as a manager or an owner, you can see all the work across the firm, but you can create custom saved views to filter down by team member, by department, by type of client, due date. You have all these different filters to really drill down on the work, and you can save those views so they're quick reports that you can access in one click, but also you can set certain views as a default view as well. So you do have the ability to really drill down and see the work that you want to see at that given time. Let's see. We also have quite a few managers across CAS. Can we sort to view only the client per each manager? Yes, you can do that as well. So if you filter, you can create client groups to do that. You can also create views with the managers to do that. So that's definitely possible. And if you are interested in learning more, you indicate in the poll, we can reach out and I'll take note of that, and we can walk you through exactly how we would do that and show you that in the system. Yes, managing partner would see all. That is correct. Michael has another question. Do you use the start date field on your projects? I think this one's for you, Tonya.
Yeah.
Do you want to...
The answer is only on these like one-off cleanup implementation projects that I was kind of highlighting in this presentation. We don't usually put a start date on reoccurring. We usually only put the due date on recurring projects. So to answer that.
And it looks like there's another question, Tonya, about does your team record time in Financial Sense?
No. That's a whole other webinar for another day. Recording time in Financial Sense is something that you can do. It's very important when you're really, I think, using the capacity planning tool to its full extent. Currently, because we do so much work with our outsourced co-firm partners, and that, again, like another webinar for another day, Shram, you and I should like set that up. We could chat about like co-firming.
Yeah.
But our co-firm partners are often tracking time in their own Financial Sense. So one cool thing, and again, this is a whole other webinar, which is really what we're talking about today, but they have the ability to switch between our firm's work, so they can do the work that needs to be done for our firm and switch back into their own firm. So if they're tracking time, they're usually tracking time in their own Financial Sense. Our team isn't recording time in Financial Sense currently.
Okay. And then it looks like we have another question from Char, and don't worry, we're here to answer questions. Ask all the questions you want. How easy is it to take an email and convert it to a task? It's very easy. We actually have an email integration in our system. So inside Financial Sense, you can see all your emails, and it syncs with Outlook in Gmail. It's an automatic two-way sync. So if you read an email in our system, delete an email, archive an email, send an email, it happens in Outlook and Gmail, and vice versa. So you don't have to manage two inboxes. So you can respond to clients, you can read emails, download documents from your emails. But the coolest thing is now it's integrated in your workflow, right? So you guys get, one-off random requests from clients via email. You can take that email and like just 2 or 3 clicks, create it to a project. You can even select a template. So it's like a templated project with a process, and the email is attached to it. So you have the reference, right? Not only can you create work from emails, you can also pin emails to related work. So if it's a client emails you an update about the bookkeeping work or some type of work you're doing for them, you can pin it to existing work that already exists. So when your team is working on that, or you go back in a few weeks, your team can see that whole conversation there and the thread of that conversation. And that's just powerful because we know how easy it is for emails to get lost in your inbox. You guys get a lot of emails, and your team's going to forget about it, or they're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes just trying to find it. So that's
I'm just gonna add, like, to the point of everything we've been talking about today, like there is so much power in that process and in managing deadlines and capacity tracking, because when those one-off email requests come in, that's actually something, again, in the long ago olden days that I talked about at the beginning of the webinar, that buried our team. Was like, we would get all those one-off requests that you're talking about, Shar, and then whoever's email inbox that landed in now was the only one that had visibility to that, piece one. And then piece two, they would often think in their head, I need to take care of that for the client, but it never got put anywhere in a calendar or project list, right? So the management has no idea that an employee or a staff member has gotten, or team member has gotten this request, and they don't know that it's either being held up and the client doesn't know what's going on, or that the team member is trying to fit it into their already very busy schedule, and the team member is trying to juggle all of those things and not quite sure what you as management would prioritize, right? So being able to put that right into your project management system and right into your task list and onto the calendar to say, hey, the team member got this request. There's a lot of visibility. Everyone knows that the clients asked for this, and it can be planned and put onto the production calendar in one place.
Exactly. So there's two questions. They're kind of related to each other, so I'll go ahead and answer them. So someone asked if you can send reminders to clients automatically on a set date to complete an action, like pay these taxes, sign this document, send me this information, right? And yes, you can. So in financial sense, one of our most popular features is the client request, or what we call client tasks. So you can actually set automated requests that go out on a specific date, and that will automatically follow up with the client until they complete those actions. The really cool thing too is if the work is recurring, so let's say it's monthly bookkeeping work, you do it every month. Let's say on the first of every month, you want this request to go out. Once you set it up once, every month on the first, it will automatically send that request list. So January 1st, February 1st, March 1st. You don't have to turn it back on. It just happens in the background. And we have a lot of clients who are like, wow, it's just like I start my work and the client documents are already magically there. I didn't have to do anything. So they don't have to chase them down anymore. So it's definitely one of our most popular features, and you can automate the whole process from start to finish.
Yeah. One quick thing, can I throw something else in there, Sharon?
Yeah, go ahead.
That is a part of our onboarding process. So on our menu is an onboarding template, and that is a part of the onboarding process where whoever's going to be doing the bookwork tells our onboarding specialist, I have access and logins to all of these accounts, and I will be able to download the statements myself. And I'm not able to get these statements or documents. And so I need you to put that on the monthly recurring task. So that's automatically happening as part of our onboarding. And then the bookkeeper every month is just going to know that that client's going to be being asked for the statements or whatever they need every month to get the work done.
And to build on that, so the next question was, someone said their clients are not ready to use online communication. Do you think it could be beneficial to use Financial Sense for this? And I would say yes, because one of the key things we do is we make it very easy on the client. What we saw was there's a lot of portals out there, but clients, they don't want to download another app, or even if they do, they forget their username or password, and they have questions and they're trying to reset it, and they get this friction point. So what happens is they just go back onto their day and they never send you the documents. So we made our our portal passwordless, but we keep it secure and encrypted with the magic link. So we use a magic link technologies where your client gets this email saying, hey, I need this information. And then when they click the email or the button in the email, it takes them to this page where they get sent a verification code. They type it in, like two-factor authentication, no password, no username. But but it's still secure, then it takes them in the portal. It's simple, like 2 clicks. And then after that, it remembers that device if they choose. So then it's just 1 click in every time. Clients love it because they don't have to download an app. It's kind of in a channel they're used to. We also send text reminders so they actually see it if they're not looking at their email, and they can get it in really fast. So I would say this is a definitely more client-friendly portal that is a great like entry point for a lot of your clients that maybe are not as tech savvy.
For sure.
Oh, there's a lot more questions. We're popular today. So if you edit a recurring template, will it edit all the future recurrence month templates? So if you edit the most recent recurrence, those changes will flow into future recurrences, which is cool because over time, your processes change with clients. They grow, or, you find a better way to do things. So if you make those changes, the future projects will keep those changes. So your projects get like smarter and more tailored over time, which is great because they are living and breathing documents. Someone wants a t-shirt. They like our t-shirts. We should
Fancy
be giving
t-shirts.
out at conferences soon.
Yes.
Let's see. And then if you really do want one, just reach out to our support team and we could probably work something out. Okay, I think we've gone through all the questions. If there was any last questions, let us know if we missed you. But it looks like we're just right over time. All right. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Tonya, thank you so much. This was a great webinar. It was really exciting to hear you talk about how you're using Financial Sense in your firm and just hear your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Everyone else, take care. We'll be sending out a recording and a follow-up with the actual deck as well. Have a great day.